What would you do if the woman you love, the one who swore her ex was nothing but a friend lending a hand, accidentally sent you a text that said round two? I'll tell you what I did. I sat there staring at my phone screen like the world had tilted on its axis, my stomach hollowing out as if the ground had been pulled from under me. You ever have one of those moments where reality doesn't compute, where your brain refuses to accept what your eyes are showing you? That was me, a grown man sitting in his car, hands trembling, whispering out loud, "No, no way, not her, not like this. Let me back up, because these things don't come out of nowhere. They creep up on you in subtle ways, little cracks you don't notice until suddenly the dam bursts." When she told me her ex was helping her move some boxes, I didn't think much of it at first. It was a Tuesday night, casual conversation. We were in the kitchen. She was pouring herself a glass of wine, and she said, "Oh, by the way, James is going to swing by this weekend. He's got a truck and I need to move a few things from my mum's storage unit." I remember pausing, not because I didn't trust her, at least not yet, but because of the way she said it. Quick, like ripping off a band-aid. James, her ex of 3 years, the one she swore she had zero feelings for, the one she labeled as toxic whenever his name came up. She saw my hesitation, rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, come on, don't be jealous. He's just helping me out. You know I don't even like him like that anymore." And I wanted to believe her. God, I did. So I nodded, forced a smile and let it go. Because relationships are built on trust, right? At least that's what I told myself. Saturday came. She texted me around noon. "Headed to storage now. Won't be long." I went about my day. Gym, groceries, the usual. By 6 she still wasn't home. By 8 I started to wonder. At 10 my phone buzzed. It was her. And when I opened the message, everything I thought I knew about us came crashing down. Round two, that was it. 2 words, no context. But you don't need context when it's that obvious. She hadn't meant to send it to me. It was meant for him. My chest went tight, my hands cold. I read it once, twice, 10 times, hoping I'd somehow misread it. But there it was, proof, sitting in blue text bubbles, glowing against the dark. The room around me blurred. I don't even remember breathing. Just this ringing in my ears, this heat crawling up my neck. Every instinct screamed at me to call her, to rage, to demand answers. But I didn't. I sat perfectly still, the phone heavy in my hand, and realized something. If she could text him so casually, then this wasn't the first time. This wasn't a slip-up. This was routine, familiar, comfortable. When she walked through the door an hour later, she was humming, hair tousled, cheeks flushed, like she'd just come from a spa day instead of moving boxes. She kissed my cheek, dropped her bag and said, "Long day. Sorry I'm late." I looked at her and saw a stranger, but I didn't confront her. Not right then, because I knew anger in that moment would only give her space to lie, to spin, to gaslight me into doubting what I'd seen. No, I decided to play it differently. I smiled. I asked her about the boxes. I listened to her talk about how tiring it was, and all the while, that text sat in my pocket like a live grenade, ticking away. That night, while she showered, I checked her phone. I'd never done it before. I always thought it was wrong, invasive, but betrayal changes your moral compass. And sure enough, there it was. Thread after thread with James. Not just about moving boxes, not just catching up, but flirty late-night messages. "Miss this. Wish I could stay longer." And then the one that broke me. A photo. Not explicit, but intimate enough that it felt like a knife in my chest. I closed the phone, put it back exactly where I found it, and sat in the dark until she came to bed. She curled up against me like nothing was wrong, like I was still hers. And in that moment I made a decision. I wasn't going to blow up. I wasn't going to cry or beg. I was going to let her dig her own grave, one text at a time until she buried herself so deep there'd be no crawling out. The next few days were hell. Every time my phone buzzed, I half expected another accidental message. Every time she smiled at me, I wondered if she was smiling at him the same way. But I kept my composure, because I knew I needed more than suspicion. I needed truth. Hard, undeniable truth. So I set a plan. Quiet, methodical. I started paying attention. Where she went, how long she stayed, the little inconsistencies in her stories, and slowly the picture came together. The storage unit, she hadn't gone there in weeks. Her girls' nights, spent at a hotel downtown, one that conveniently didn't require ID for parking. James wasn't just helping her move, he was moving right back into her life, piece by piece, while I stood on the sidelines believing the script she fed me. And the irony of it all, she once told me she hated liars more than anything, said honesty was the foundation of love. But here she was, texting her ex from my couch, sending me messages meant for him, and expecting me not to notice. I didn't explode. Not yet. Because explosions are messy. They leave debris everywhere. What I wanted was precision, a surgical strike, and when it came, I wanted it to cut clean. So I kept quiet, kept watching, kept gathering, because if she thought one mistaken text was enough to expose her, She had no idea just how much more was about to unravel. And that's where I'll stop for now. Because the real story isn't in the discovery. It's in what comes after. The confrontation, the fallout, the way a single round 2 spiraled into the end of a marriage, and the beginning of something I never saw coming. Part 2. The text, round 2, had been like a spark in a room full of gas. But instead of lighting the match right then, I let it burn slow. I needed her to show herself completely, without room for excuses, without a single doubt in my own head that I was doing the right thing. And believe me, she gave me more fuel than I could have imagined. The days after that slip-up were some of the hardest of my life. Living next to someone while knowing they're lying to your face is like sleeping next to a snake and pretending not to hear the hiss. She laughed. She kissed me. She cooked dinner like nothing was wrong. Every little act of affection felt like poison. I caught myself staring at her sometimes, wondering, how can you look me in the eye and do this? But then she'd smile, and I'd remember she was an expert at masks. I didn't confront her. Instead, I turned my attention into action. I needed proof beyond that one text, something airtight. So I started small, a tracker app on her phone, not to stalk but to confirm. She said she was going to her mum's. The app showed her downtown. She said she was shopping. The app showed her parked in the lot of that same hotel. The pattern was undeniable. One night I followed her. She thought I was at a late work meeting, but I was 2 cars behind, lights dimmed, heart pounding so hard I thought it would break through my chest. I watched her pull into that hotel lot, saw James's beat-up truck already there, saw her climb out of the car with that extra bounce in her step, the bounce I hadn't seen in months. She wore that red jacket I bought her for Christmas, the one she said made her feel confident. Watching her wear it for him felt like a punch to the gut. I didn't go inside, didn't storm up to the room. Instead I took photos. License plate, timestamp, her walking into the lobby, him holding the door. Cold, factual evidence, no screaming, no assumptions, just the truth captured in pixels. That night, lying in bed alone, I stared at those photos and thought about the life I'd been building with her. The vacations, the house repairs, the long nights we'd stayed up dreaming about the future, even if our future was one I'd compromised on, bending around her refusal to have kids, bending around her career ambitions. I thought about every sacrifice I'd made, every time I bit my tongue to keep the peace, and now all of it was being traded away for a man she'd already lived with and supposedly left behind. The irony wasn't lost on me. She once called James the past. She'd said we broke up for a reason. He's selfish, he doesn't grow, and yet here she was, circling back, craving round 2. The confrontation didn't happen until 2 weeks later. I picked a Sunday morning, calm and deliberate. She was making coffee, humming some tune under her breath, wearing one of my old t-shirts like she hadn't just spent half her nights wrapped in another man's arms. I set my phone on the counter between us. The screen lit up with that text. Round 2. Her humming stopped. She froze, cut mid-air. Her eyes flicked from the screen to me, wide and guilty. For the first time she looked like the mask had slipped. I think that was meant for James, I said, my voice steady, not yelling, not breaking, just flat, cold truth. She stammered. No, it's not what you think, I meant. I cut her off, swiped the photos open. Her walking into the hotel. James holding the door. Time-stamped, dated, undeniable, silence. Then her face changed. Not remorse, not shame, defiance. You shouldn't have followed me. You invaded my privacy. I almost laughed. Privacy? You mean the privacy to betray me? The privacy to crawl back to your ex while lying to my face every day? Her jaw clenched. She set the cup down so hard, coffee sloshed over the rim. You don't understand. You've been distant. You don't touch me anymore. I felt alone. There it was, the script, the blame shift. As if my supposed distance justified her crawling back to someone she'd sworn was toxic. As if my quiet nights after long workdays excused the way she texted round 2 while still wearing my ring. I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just slid a manila envelope across the counter. Inside were printed screenshots, location logs, the hotel photos. You don't get to spin this, I said. This is what it is. And you can lie to yourself all you want, but you won't lie to me anymore. She didn't speak, just stared at the papers, her face pale, lips trembling. For the first time she looked small. I walked away, packed a bag that afternoon, left her with the house, the memories, the ashes of what we'd been. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to shout or break things, it's to walk out with your head high, leaving them to choke on the silence. The fallout came fast. Friends called, shocked. Her story about me being cold crumbled under the weight of the evidence. James didn't stick around either. Turns out round 2 ended as quickly as it began, once the thrill wore off. And her, she tried reaching out, texts, calls, even showed up at my new place once, eyes red, saying she made a mistake. I didn't open the door, because here's what I learned. Betrayal doesn't just reveal who someone else is, It reveals who you are. And I realized I wasn't the man who clung to someone who treated me like an option. I was the man who could start again, stronger, sharper, wiser. She said her ex was just helping her move, but the truth came out in 2 little words. Round 2. And in the end, it wasn't her second chance, it was mine.